Today is a wonderful day. The 2026 Bahrain pre-season test is here. We're seeing cars live on track on broadcast. So here's everything I think you need to know about day one of Bahrain pre-season testing. My name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. Before we get into team by team, I guess, we've got some more general points that I want to cover regarding these cars, how different they look and feel. It's more than I imagined it'd be. In short, they look fantastic. Noticeably smaller as well. We know they're 20 centimeters shorter and 10 centimeters narrower, but the drivers' heads in proportion to the cars look massive because, of course, the Formula 1 car regulations have gotten smaller, but the driver's noggin size hasn't. And talking of small domes, Minton has decided to spoil the party, haven't you? I honestly think it'd be well aerodynamic if we put you in a wind tunnel, wouldn't you, mate? You'd love that. They also look absolutely rapid, particularly in a straight line. The acceleration looks crazy, which again in part is because these cars are smaller, but also are quicker in a straight line. They've lost a lot of grip, a lot of performance through the corners, but they make up for it in the straights. And importantly, that is correlating, to me anyway, on screen. The downshifting is a bit interesting. You can see drivers playing around trying to generate as much electrical energy for this massively increased MGUH. But actually, generally the sound of the cars, I mean, there's a few pops and bangs that are kind of nice, but I didn't come away from that hour broadcast feeling that they sound way better than the previous cars. Maybe a little bit, but still nothing like a V8 or V10. Obviously. The undercar sparks are gone apart from when you run on a curb, which Kimi Antonelli was doing a lot. No more 9G vertical downforce going through the driver's spines. And rake is back noticeably as well, much lower at the front than the rear. Active aero, of course, is brand new for this year. Well, not brand new, DRS was always a thing, but front wings anyway. The rear wings move in broadly a similar way. However, you got to say that some teams, they seem to approach it very differently, right? Alpine, there's drops instead of opening up on the rear wing. And also you look at the opening, I mean, the McLaren opening on the rear wing is massive compared to the Audi, where you can't really see much daylight through it at all. Look, it's great at the start of a regulation cycle before the teams get a chance to converge on what will become the best way to do things. It's just cool seeing the different creative interpretations of these regulations. We had tons of lockups into turn 10, which is not out of the ordinary at all, but the general feeling is that these cars are a lot more on the edge and they're going to challenge the drivers a lot more, which is great because I think that is how you allow the drivers who are best to really flex, because they are all going to be on the edge more than ever. Now, the fastest lap time of the day was a 1:34.669, which was actually half a second than 1:35.140, which was the fastest lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix last season. Pole was a 29.8 last year, but I am impressed with how quickly these cars have seemingly gotten up to speed. And I reckon low fuel, these cars could dip into the 132s around Bahrain as things stand right now, which puts them within, a few seconds of the previous generations. Very impressive. And we got loads of laps on the board. For reference, a Grand Prix distance at Bahrain is 57 laps. Let's go in order of least laps to most set on day one. Lance Stroll was the only driver to pilot the Aston Martin on day one of Bahrain testing. 36 laps on the board, quite considerably less. In fact, less than half of the next worst team lap count wise. Less than a quarter of the team who did the most, which again is worrying from, not just an aero point of view and actually analysing the design that Newey's created, but they are the only team running the Honda Power Unit, and they've had, a very minimal Barcelona test and now a very minimal day one. It's not the end of the world, it's only day one of 6, but day one of Bahrain clearly hasn't gone to plan. Now, looking at the car from an aerodynamic point of view, you've got to say it's probably the most aggressive on the grid. I mean, those louvres look insane, although does that point to cooling issues with the Honda engine? Perhaps, but Newey's talked about being 4 months behind on development time. Maybe they've pushed some ideas through that are a bit more risky. Only time will tell. But again, the amount of running we've seen from Aston Martin so far doesn't bode particularly well. In the Racing Bulls, it was only Arvid Lindblad who piloted on day one, 75 laps on the boards. Not too bad, it's more than a Bahrain Grand Prix race distance. And unfortunately, we didn't really get to see the Racing Bulls during that hour broadcast that we got towards the end, but we do have plenty of stills which we can go into. I was wondering if that big airbox above the driver's head was going to make it onto the actual car or whether that was just bait, but turns out it is the real thing. The car looks fantastic for sure. Does it look quick? I reckon it'll be alright. If that Red Bull 4 powertrain ends up cooking, then maybe very alright, but not a huge amount to take from the Racing Bulls on day one. Alpine had both their drivers in the car on day one. Colapinto in the morning put 28 laps on the board. Pierre Gasly in the afternoon, 49, meaning 77 in total. And actually, Franco brought out the first red flag of the day, having an issue in the morning session, meaning the car had to be recovered. But again, Pierre was able to run a good stint in the afternoon, so not the end of the world. And actually, looking at this car aerodynamically, it looks like one of the safer, least aggressive takes, at least, on the regulations to start with. Anyway, I would not be at all surprised if we see a B-spec Alpine. And the same can be said for a lot of teams as well, by the way, in the season opener in Australia or just very early on in the season. They're not pushing the boat out massively, again, apart from that rear wing actuator bringing the flap down instead of, you know, flipping it up. I'm still expecting big things from Alpine this season, and day one, pretty good for them. Mercedes had George Russell in the car in the morning, 56 laps on the board, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli in the afternoon with 29, meaning 85 in total. I mean, the first thing I noticed is that Mercedes actually looked unreal on the track. Like, the proportions of the car combined with the livery, stunning. Like, that's definitely higher than where I've ranked it on my livery list. And 85 laps might not be as many as most other teams on the grid, but I think they'll still be pretty happy. They've had such a good Barcelona test. They'll just be sticking to a run plan, and I don't think there's any reason to panic. There is, of course, talk about this compression ratio and teams vetoing against it. Other teams, look, if the rule is that your compression ratio has to be 16:1 when the car's cold, and it's 16:1 when the car's cold, if you found a solution that ekes a bit more out when the car's hot, well done. That engineering deserves, merits, reward, if you ask me. Cadillac can be very happy, I think, with day one of Bahrain testing. Bottas in the morning, 49 laps on the board. Perez in the afternoon, 57, meaning 106 laps in total. This team's just about got operational, starting from nothing to get over 100 laps on the board in day one of Bahrain testing. I think is a huge accomplishment. I think they should be very happy with themselves. Although Checo did have some pretty nasty lockups when the feed kicked in. So yeah, I mean, it's turn 10. It was catching everyone out. Let's be real. They've got a long way to go. They expect to be down. They've said it themselves. Dan Tauris has that they expect to be at an aerodynamic deficit in Australia, because of course they will be. They will be all season. You know, it's going to take a while, but they're here for the long run. And that livery still slaps on track. It might not be chrome, but it still looks good. But only time will tell whether that package can give them the opportunity to score any points this season. McLaren had Oscar Piastri in the car in the morning, 54 laps on the board. Lando in the afternoon, 57, which clearly means bias towards Lando because he got 3 more laps. 111, sorry, can't count in total. And Lando went quickest overall with his 134, mid 134 lap, which can never be a bad thing. 111 laps on the board. It's a decent haul for the boys and girls in Papaya. And looking at the car, I mean, aerodynamically, it looks a bit funky. I would maybe say that next to the Aston Martin, it looks the most aggressive in terms of pushing the boat out from an aero point of view. I actually really don't like the way the car looks on track, but again, who cares if it's quick? They really seem to have shrink wrapped the engine cover, but also the side pod inlets and the kind of tunnels down look pretty basic. So again, I expect more innovation on this front. Esteban Ocon was the only Haas driver today, 114 laps all on his own. Very, very good Esti Besti. On top of their incredible laps that they put on the board in Barcelona, I think again Haas have got to be pretty chuffed with how this 2026 season has gone so far. The car looks fantastic livery wise. Proportionally, it just looks great. Like, it's not pushing the boat out massively, but there's enough uniqueness in there that gives me hope that this is going to be a pretty quick car out the gates. It's not all bad running towards the back in F1. Remember, the sliding ATR scale helps these smaller teams somewhat catch up with those at the top. Also, Esteban's quickest lap, a mid 1:35, was pretty competitive, right up there. I think like 4th quickest overall. Audi had both drivers in the car today. Bortoleto in the morning, 49 laps on the board. Hulkenberg in the afternoon, 72 laps. Very, very good. 121 in total. A huge day for Audi, much needed, because the Barcelona shakedown wasn't all that impressive from a lap count point of view. This, though, they can be very happy with. The car actually looks fantastic on track, got to say. And even though Hulkenberg had an issue in the afternoon session, about an hour and a half into it, he almost got back into the bits. Couldn't quite, brought out a red flag, got back out pretty quickly, though, in 72 laps again. Simply lovely. But actually, Audi kind of talk of the town, really, for the car that they've bought here, which is very, very different to the car we saw most recently at the launch. In specific terms, those side pods. Wow, okay, are we seeing some zero pods here? Are we seeing the scream face mouth? That's what immediately came to mind when I saw this. They've definitely seen something and they've gone for it. It looks aggressive. Not quite to the extent of the Aston Martin, but I'll tell you what, Audi, maybe you are going to cook. The hope is absolutely there, because to see Gabby and Nico fighting at the front would be so nice. It's too early for that, I'm sure. But again, good mileage on the Audi power unit as well, being the only car running that engine. Very helpful for them. Ferrari had Lewis Hamilton at the wheel in the morning, 52 laps on the board. Charles Leclerc in the afternoon with 79, a lovely chunk of 131 laps done. The car looks absolutely superb on track. It looks so nice. I'm sure we'll see a different spec soon, and it might make the car uglier. So, you know what? I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. And actually, we heard a bit of a change of tune from Lewis Hamilton after his morning stint, where he wasn't too happy with the car. He was saying it's like Monza downforce everywhere. Wind was clearly playing havoc. If you were going into a bit of a headwind, you were decent, but a tail or crosswind was messing. Not just him. He did say, you know, it's everyone's suffering from this, but it wasn't quite that same feeling he had of comfort in Barcelona. But 131 laps, got to be happy with that. Seemingly no issues for them or Cadillac or Haas from a reliability point of view with the PU. Okay, Ferrari, keep going. We are not getting ahead of ourselves here, but so far, so good. Max Verstappen took all 135 laps of that Red Bull today. A really strong day. First car out, quickest for a lot of the day, and almost beat Lando Norris's pole position. It's not pole position, you know what I'm saying. Quickest time of the day, almost got it. Car looks fantastic on track. Again, those, you know, hints of Ford brighter blue within the paint job really do pop on the camera. That's lovely. From an aerodynamic point of view, it looks good. It looks aggressive. The, I think, only car that doesn't seem to have any of those front wing end plate fins on top that everyone else seems to be running for some reason, but the car seems to be quick. And actually, Toto Wolff let the games begin, right? He dropped some absolute bars about the Red Bull. The car, the power unit, they are the benchmark at the moment. And he's essentially suggesting that Red Bull powertrains have found a way to deploy a lot more electrical energy down the straights. To quote, I mean, I'm speaking a second a lap over consecutive laps. Now, Toto, calm down. I don't think it's quite that significant, but fair play. If Red Bull powertrains have pulled something out of the bag, then this could make the 2026 championship fight a lot more interesting. And finally, we have Carlos Sainz, 77 laps, Alex Albon, 68 laps, Williams, 145 laps on the board, more than anybody else. And this was much needed, much needed, having missed the Barcelona test entirely. The car looks stunning, like proportions wise, kind of not so much thinking about the livery. It looks so cool. It's probably my favorite one of all 11. Aerodynamically, they seem to be in a pretty good place. There's nothing too crazy going on. They've got some interesting front wing end plate flicks going on, but nothing crazy right now anyway. But it's a relief, because I think we're all worried about Williams. Very worried about Williams. And yes, operationally, they still have their weaknesses, but hopefully this is the sign of things to come, because as day one of Bahrain testing could go, well, they log more laps than anyone else, and that is the most important measurement here. That's a wrap on day one. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments down below. See you tomorrow for day two. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.